Now to remembering a fallen NYPD hero. The wake for Officer Jonathan Diller, who was killed in the line of duty, continued today in Massapequa.
Loved ones and fellow officers comforted each other as they paid their respects.
A day after former President Trump and Mayor Adams paid respects, Governor Hochul visited. Inside, there was an exchange with the family about the state's criminal justice policy issues. And as she left, witnesses say there was shouting at the governor, then a confrontation outside.
Brand new video shows New York Governor Kathy Hochul getting an earful as she was leaving the wake for murdered NYPD officer Jonathan Diller, this over in Massapequa. A source tells me this happened moments after Hochul refused to abide by the family's wishes. They would do an open casket viewing, and she did not want to wait on the outside. So she came in while they were closing the casket. As she stormed in, they just couldn't stop her. I'm told that family members let her have it when she got there, saying, quote, "His blood is on your hands." When Hochul got outside, that's when another family member confronted her, telling her that the governor laws need to change because that's the reason why Officer Diller is dead tonight. Hochul wasn't the only one approached at the wake. Mayor Eric Adams and DA Alvin Bragg were both confronted directly, this time by Officer Diller's wife. The source tells me she let them have it too, telling them the same thing that was told to Hochul. His blood is on your hands. I understand that Bragg kept quiet, and for a second it looked like Adams was going to engage. He realized he was heavily outnumbered and a politician, thought better of it, and left. The most shocking part about all this is that despite the fact that none of these leaders were welcomed at the wake, I have now learned tonight from a source that Kathy Hochul, the governor, asked to speak at tomorrow's funeral at St. Rose. So did, hold on to something tight, AG Letitia James. Both were rejected by the family.
How completely out of touch and disrespectful. It's about them when you make that kind of request. It really should be about the family. They can speak whoever they want to have speak. And if you aren't invited to provide remarks, then you don't try to push your way into it. I mean, I think it's time for some of these elected officials that you referenced to be doing some self-reflection.
Former President Donald Trump arrived a little after 2, spending about 30 minutes with Diller's family. We're told he walked up to the coffin with Diller's widow.
The Diller family you'll never be the same. You can never be the same. And we have to stop it. We have to stop it. We have to get back to law and order. We have to do a lot of things differently because this is not working.
I was in the room when President Trump was there yesterday, and I have to tell you that the photos that are coming out, they don't tell the story. Even President Trump reflecting just now, I got to tell you, it was 100 times more powerful than that. The grandmother running up, asking President Trump if she can hug him, and the embrace, and President Trump kissing the 1-year-old baby and just being consoled by the family, consoling each of them. It was so powerful of a moment.
He was doing his duty, and I just feel in my heart to be here.
Didn't have to happen. The laws need to be changed.
Law enforcement and everyday New Yorkers here to support the 31-year-old officer's heartbroken family filed past Back the Blue Memorial flowers and images of Diller's wife Stephanie and their 1-year-old son Ryan.
I don't know what's happened to the world. No one has any regard for police officers, but for life, period. And all lives matter.
This family is going through a lot right now, and now is just a time to be respecting them first and foremost. And when there comes a time after this, if you really want to honor the memory of this NYPD officer, then do something to fight for all the other NYPD officers and the other law enforcement who are on the streets right now. The people who you are stabbing them in the back with your policies, if you want to honor Officer Diller, then do your job actually protecting law-abiding New Yorkers instead of criminals.
Very sorry for the family. I'm a fireman for 34 years, and I made it through that, and I see what he's doing, a young man like him. It's very sad.
This is a neighborhood filled with firefighters, police officers, and their families who say they're feeling this loss deeply, whether or not they knew the officer personally. This man's son-in-law is a New York City detective.
Just how hard they work and how terrible it is that they have to deal with stuff like this, the families, the extended families, and also the community. It's very sad.
I believe they're trying to take law and order and showing up at these funerals and acting like they're tough on crime because they're desperate for November. They knew they were going to get blasted, probably to a degree because of their stance. And they did it anyway and they wanted to speak at the funeral because they want to act like they're tough on crime. And I don't think anyone's buying it.
Get outside of New York City, the bluest counties in New York, whether it's Manhattan or Queens or Bronx or Brooklyn, there are a whole lot of other parts of this state that are red. They are more conservative. They are not happy with the far-left policies coming out of a place like New York City or Albany or Washington, D.C.
The optics, the contrast, the execution of what happened here. I mean, you got a dead New York City police officer and nothing from President Biden.
Yeah, it's awful. And yet, it perhaps was one of the most honest evenings we've seen in a very long time. We've always seen honesty with President Trump. One thing about that guy is that you know who he is. He is always going to be himself. He never adjusts the nature of what he's going to say or do to trick people or to pander. And you saw the nature of how he cares about not just police officers and the firefighters, but the nature of blue-collar work. Regular, everyday, anonymous heroes in this country, average citizens putting their lives on the line to keep their own community safe. That is the ultimate of the American ideal. And so that is Trump. And that's what infuses, that kind of empathy infuses what he says and does. No matter, whether you've liked his style or not, that's why he had success. Biden, on the other hand, was completely himself. The Democrats, we used to call them, Jason, you'll recall, limousine liberals. This is nothing new. They've just been caught at the lie that they care about the average individual. This was it was obscene. It was disgusting. It was certainly a lack of empathy. And it's almost as though empathy has been excised from them in some kind of a surgery. And they're all there, laughing it up, having a great time with their big celebrity pals, making lots of money. The ultimate disconnection with the nature of what's happening in this country. Two very distinct visions of what's going on. One, they used to say all roads lead to Rome. That used to be true, right? Different policies, but all to the same place. Yeah. The Democrat road now goes off that freaking cliff, and it is the Republican road, no matter what your politics, that at least lead us to some semblance of a future that we can rely on.
Well, yesterday, Americans witnessed the grave contrast that will be before them on the ballot on November the 5th. You have a man of the people in President Trump who humbly accepted the invitation from Officer Diller's family to pay his respects, to honor the life and the legacy of one of the NYPD's heroes. And just a few miles up the road, you had Joe Biden, a corrupt career politician, joking and laughing with limousine liberals and out-of-touch elitists and big donors who are striking big checks to his campaign, many of whom support the very soft on crime and defund the police policies that led to the heinous killing of Officer Diller, that led to his murderer being arrested and released 21 times prior. And this is not the first time Americans have witnessed this grave contrast between the two presidents they can pick from on Election Day. Just a few weeks ago, I was with President Trump in the great state of Georgia, where he consoled another grieving American family, the parents of Laken Riley, whose beautiful daughter was killed at the hands of an illegal immigrant who Joe Biden allowed into this country and who was also arrested in New York for injuring a child and then released. How many more Americans need to die because of Joe Biden's lawless and feckless policies before he actually cares? The truth is, he doesn't care about the American people. Joe Biden has always cared about one thing, and that is power and control. He's spent decades in quote-unquote public service ripping off Americans. That's why the American people are choosing President Trump in the polls, and he's winning in every single battleground state right now.